We're here in Smyrna, one of the few great cities of antiquity that remains a great city until this day. Smyrna is now known as Izmir, but this is the church that Jesus had nothing but praise and encouragement for. They were surviving in the middle of a pressure cooker, and it's worth noting that of the 7 churches that Jesus speaks to, only the church of Smyrna still exists, still in the middle of a pressure cooker 20 centuries later. As a city, the ancient author Aristides compared Smyrna to the mythical Phoenix, as it was repeatedly destroyed by earthquakes and invasions, but was repeatedly rebuilt and reborn over and over. Many scholars believe the name Smyrna was connected to the word myrrh, which was one of its main exports. It was a sweet-smelling spice that's placed on the bodies of the dead. Jesus himself received myrrh by one of the wise men who visited him upon his birth. The city was known in the ancient world as the birthplace and deathplace of the great poet Homer, the bard who composed the world-changing epic poems, the Odyssey and the Iliad. Jesus promised his church in Smyrna they would receive a crown as a reward for their endurance under constant pressure. The symbol was apt as a crown because the crown was embossed boldly on all of Smyrna's coinage, and the city itself was known as the crown of the region, perhaps because of the evocative shape of the crown of the Acropolis that sat on top of Mount Pagus. John didn't know it when he transcribed this letter from Jesus to Smyrna, but his own close friend and student, Polycarp of Smyrna, would be caught up in one of the most intense periods of pressure in Smyrna's history. Just over the hill from the old Acropolis, now called the Codificale, is the site where Polycarp died, a very old man at age 86. He had faithfully led the church at Smyrna for generations since Jesus' commendation. But when local governments decided to crack down on the church, they focused on its most visible member, Polycarp. The magistrate who was assigned to take the elderly Polycarp to his execution was ashamed by how poorly they were treating this old man. And he offered to let Polycarp off with a warning if he would just throw a pinch of incense and publicly state that Caesar is Lord. Several generations earlier, this sort of proclamation was undertaken voluntarily by those who wanted a leg up in the Roman world and wanted to show off how much they loved Rome. However, in the generations since the voluntary nature of this worship, it had descended into a mandatory action that is required of the government of all citizens. Only Christians resisted this public worship of Caesar as Lord. So when Polycarp refused this easy out, the magistrate became angry and threw him out of the court. Polycarp, undaunted, simply walked on his own all the way to his own execution. The arena was already red with the blood of other massacred Christians, but the crowd was pumped for the prime event, Polycarp. The crowd was chanting, "Away with the atheists," which was their name of the Christians who wouldn't worship the Roman gods. And so the magistrate, once more attempting to spare Polycarp, asked him to join in with the chant and just say, "Away with the atheists." Polycarp just thought about this for a moment, and he went into the arena and he pointed at the entire crowd and he said, "Away with you atheists." And in time, Polycarp would be proved correct. The dominant cultural, so impressive, so on the inexorable side of history, faded away, and the church at Izmir still exists.